welcome back to Morsels and Motors, and you join me on a very special day. We are in Cumbria, and I say we because I've got some friends with me who are in the car, and we are driving in Russ's C5 up to Glasgow. We're about halfway in beautiful rural Cumbria, which looks like that. Nice, eh? That's Jim, that's Russ, and that's the Citroen number one of the day. And why is it a special day? Well, because of course it is a new car collection caper. People who know me will know that I've been wanting a Citroen for quite a long time. My ideal Citroen would probably be an early BX or an early Phase 2 Visa that still got the original dashboard. But I also wanted something that was a little bit more modern so that I could take it on longer journeys, you know, something that has maybe a 5-speed gearbox. And so I decided to compromise and go for the quirkiness of the Citroen suspension, but in a body that was launched in 1993. And so I present to you my Phase 1 Xantia. Built on the 17th of June 1993, that makes this the earliest known right-hand drive diesel. And yes, you heard right, this is in fact a diesel. It's a 1.9 non-turbo with 70 horsepower, so it's not terribly fast, but it should be economical and reliable, which is exactly what I want from my long-distance modern-ish cruiser. So off we head on our 360-mile journey home from Glasgow back to Cambridge. Thankfully, the journey home was really quite uneventful. We had 2 hours of driving and then we stopped, had something to eat, and then another 2 hours to stop for a rest, and then the final 2 hours home. Really not too bad. And we all swapped driving around the two cars at the time, so it really broke up the journey and didn't make it seem quite so tough and tiring. After we arrived home, we decided to celebrate our successful journey by opening a bottle of Cremant de Loire in the true French tradition. The next day, I decided to go and show my new French purchase to my friend James Walsh, who works at Practical Classics magazine. I thought it was sensible for a Citroen expert to have a little look at some of the issues the car was having. So first of all, he gave a good test on the suspension, which is pushing up against the car and then letting the car push back against him, as you can see it doing so right now. This helped us diagnose that it really was just the accumulator sphere that was the main problem. We also had a little look underneath the car to see if we could work out what the exhaust pipe issue was, and discovered that there was a series of holes about 6 inches long in the pipe leading to the front silencer. So on the way back, I took it to my local friendly exhaust fitting place for them to have a little look at it. So they raised it up on the ramp, and actually that revealed another problem, which is that there was a rather horrific oil leak. It was dripping so badly onto the floor that the poor guys had to go and get a cloth to clean it up. But they saw that there was a bit of a gash in the pipe, so they gave it a good plugging up with a little bit of exhaust putty, but said that wasn't definitely not a permanent repair, but it was enough to just give us a bit of silence when driving the car around without the horrible exhaust note that it had before. Actually, when I got home, I then put, I've wrapped some exhaust blanket around it, around those holes, and that's really kept it quite solid and much better than it was. Next job was to try and identify what was causing quite such a horrendous oil leak. As you can see here, there's pools of oil on the side of the engine. So I took the air intake system off and revealed that there was a little breather pipe for the oil that was absolutely and completely destroyed at one end. So I went to the Citroën Centre and they kindly supplied me with a brand new unit. So that certainly made life significantly better. However, that wasn't everything, as the woes of the virgin Citroen owner didn't end there. The next day, the car decided that it didn't really like running anymore. After some severe soul searching of why on earth I'd bought this car, I managed to diagnose a massive air leak in the fuel system, where you could see the fuel dripping out of this little bung on the bottom of the fuel filter. So I took the fuel filter off, and under the advice of somebody who'd done it before, Araldited that little bung shut to stop it from leaking any further. And so thankfully we are now back in the comfortable, happy world of a nice sounding XUD engine. Thank goodness for that. Next job I had to deal with was the steering wheel. It actually really wobbled. So I whipped the steering wheel off and discovered that it was this bearing that had slipped down the shaft. Holding my pole. With the help of a glamorous assistant and a very large pole, we managed to hammer the bearing back down the shaft into its correct place. Although obviously whilst we had the steering wheel off, it would have been rude not to replace some of the broken dashboard illumination, so I also did that. Also driving me nuts with the car was the tailgate central locking, which only operated on about 1 in 6 times where you unlock the car. So I whipped the unit out, cut it open, and used the guidance on the Tapes and Spanners YouTube channel, link in the description below, to bring it back to life. And thankfully, it now works again. While still in the mood to sort small electrical niggles, I whipped off the speaker covers and discovered that the speakers were completely destroyed. So bought a new set of Pioneer ones off eBay and fitted those. Now sorting all these minor niggles is of course just a distraction for me from the biggest problem on the car, which is the accumulator sphere, which you can hear clicking on all the time. Now the accumulator is something that stores pressure in the hydraulic system so that if the engine fails, you don't lose the brakes. So it didn't really make sense to drive it very far with that having failed. So my lovely friend Russ, who you saw at the beginning of the video, came over with his special Citroen sphere removal tool and spent a bit of time underneath the car removing it and replacing it with a brand new unit. So that is as far as I'm going to go in this video. We've got to the stage where the car is actually working again so that I can actually drive it, which means that I can now do a proper review, a proper walk around, show you around the car and do a proper drive of the car for you. So hopefully you will join me for sort of part 2 of this video, which is a proper introduction to my Xantia, where it is no longer an expensive driveway ornament driving me slightly crazy and wishing I hadn't bought a Citroen in the first place. Thank you very much for watching and for making it this far. I will see you again in the next video. Bye!